Thank you, Johnny Ty. I was reflecting that the temple room as it is now downstairs is about the same size as the temple room was, when I joined in Bury Place. The only difference is we managed to get about 200 people in there. Particularly when Prabhupada visited, which he did every summer pretty much. The temple room became insanely, hot and lacking in oxygen. And we had a fan fitted into the old Bury Place temple. Was quite unique because there was a big, beautiful arched window that gave directly onto the street, so that anyone coming past could actually look through the window and they could see Krishna. They could have darshan from the pavement. And I look forward to a time, I think the time will come, sometime in the future when we may be able to have, something not dissimilar. For now we're a little cramped in this building, even when we've got the whole temple room. So as Janitai said, we moved here in 1979, and that was a wonderful occasion. That I often remarked that although the physical space changed, that wonderful atmosphere that existed in the original temple seemed, when we moved Krishna here, I was worried, because I thought, we're going to lose that amazing atmosphere. We had a sort of a temple room that was like a cave. It was built by Shamsundar. In actual fact, it was modelled on the cave temples of, is it Ellora, somewhere in Western Ghats of India, which looked exactly like that. It was a miniature version of a cave temple. And it had such a wonderful atmosphere, and I was worried that when we moved here, we'd lose that atmosphere. But in fact what happened was, when we moved Krishna in to his new temple room downstairs, it just seemed that he brought the atmosphere completely intact with him, and nothing was lost at all. And I think that that is symbolic of the development of the Krishna consciousness movement. That although the environment may change, the external circumstances may change, even the people may change. We just said goodbye this week to an old and dear friend, Vichitra Virya, who was one of the key devotees in this yatra here in England in 1970 and 1980s, 70s and 80s. At the Bhaktivedanta Manor, 100 or so of us came together for a memorial feast. And for 3 or 4 hours, people told stories of Vichy, as we used to call him. And at the end, I made a little film, 10-minute film, saying goodbye to him. And I put the soundtrack at the end of the film, George Harrison singing "All Things Must Pass." And I was thinking about that when I was watching the pictures, because I was thinking, well, yes, it's true. In this world, all things must pass. And the people also pass on. The faces change. But I was also thinking, in another sense, that in Krishna consciousness, we actually have something that doesn't pass away. Whilst everything else in life, slips through your fingers, inevitably in course of time, we do have to say goodbye to everything. And when George Harrison wrote that song, "All Things Must Pass," I think it appeared on, after the breakup of the Beatles, he released this 3-disc set of LPs, the big ones, when they were that size. And I believe it was the first one ever 3-disc set. The reason being, he had so many unpublished songs during the time in the Beatles. And I think he called it "All Things Must Pass," didn't he? Yeah. He called the whole set "All Things Must Pass." And if you listen to the words of many of those songs, and particularly that particular song, All Things Must Pass, you'll see how he was inspired by what he'd heard from Srila Prabhupada, and what he no doubt had also read in Prabhupada's books, that in this world all things must pass. And there's one lecture that Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan a couple of years later, after that song came out, where Prabhupada likened the process of Krishna consciousness to the rising of the sun. He said that, you know, in the middle of the night, you can't expect the sun to rise. Meaning that in the practice of Krishna consciousness, sometimes, you know, we do have to be patient. There is a process to go through. And although it is the case that pretty much as soon as I embark upon that process, the result is actually guaranteed. It actually is guaranteed. But it may take some time. So Prabhupada said, in the middle of the night, you can't expect the sun to rise. Wait until the morning, 6 o'clock, the sun will rise. So George, in his song, he expressed a similar idea. I think he must have heard it from Prabhupada, because he said that, you know, during the day, so many things happen. Storm clouds, the sun comes out, but it all passes, and then it's night time. But then he ended by saying, and the night too will pass, and morning will come again. So anyhow, so many things passed. Vichy passed away, but the spirit of Krishna consciousness continues unabated, so far I can tell. And what I've chosen today is to tell a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is my volume. I think it's now in one volume. Each canto is in one volume, isn't it? The original Bhagavatams were published in separate volumes, so this is the first canto, part 1. And it's a story of Narada Muni, which I'll tell in a little while. But that tells a story of how he embarked on the process of Krishna consciousness. We'll come to that in a minute. Let's begin with singing Jai Radha Madhava.